Ryan. Welcome to This Is Horror.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we're excited to have you here. And to begin with, as you may anticipate, I want to know what some of the early life lessons were that you learned growing up.
Early life lessons growing up. Um, a bee stung my penis when I was about 12 years old. Don't do that again. So really important early life lesson. Don't do that.
Oh, hang on a minute. What were you doing for that to happen? What is the that in the don't do that?
So
You can't really just come back and go, okay, yeah,
I thought you
that's
guys would just
valid.
hand wave that one on. I was like 11 or 12 years old, and I came downstairs. My sister was in the room, my brother, parents, and my mom's Mexican, and she had this like Mexican rug, and it had this like multicolored pattern, and there was a yellow stripe, which is going to be important in a second. And Law and Order was on, and there's a sexy lady on the screen, and I was like 11 or 12, did not quite know how to handle myself, leaned up against the couch, and I thought a spring had come undone and it kind of skewered me. And I took a couple of steps back, and there was a hornet or a wasp. People, whenever I tell this story, get very upset that I don't know the difference. I don't know what kind of bug it was, but I know it was like a stinging bee that was yellow and flew, or stinging bug that was yellow and flew. And then, because I was in so much pain, I just like dropped trow in front of my whole family and started screaming, "A bee stung my penis." And then I pulled it back up and pull it down, pull it back up because it hurt so much. And the shame would come back, and I'd pull back up, and then I'd pull back down because it was just so stinging. It was incredibly painful. And eventually my mom said, like, go upstairs, make a baking soda powder. So like early life lesson, don't do that. The whole thing, because all of it was bad.
That is quite the story to begin with. And I think one of the lessons as well is if your penis is stung by a bee, a wasp, or a hornet, make a baking soda powder.
I mean, any bee sting, baking soda powder will take out the venom if you do it quick enough.
So, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but let's talk through what happened here. So, as you say, you come downstairs, Law and Order is on,
Yeah.
and there's a sexy lady that excited you. So then, like, did you say your mum had was it a mosaic rug? What, there was a
You
bit
had
of
like
yellow. We find out that. So
yeah,
then, when you see the sexy lady with your
yeah.
sister and your mother in the room, is your reaction to rub yourself against the mosaic rug? Is that what's going on here? But you didn't rub it against the rug, you rubbed it against the wasp, and either in a reciprocal gesture of friendship or because it was
Yeah.
angry, it stung you.
That's pretty accurate to what happened. Yeah. Yeah, that's how I would pretty much describe it.
And I mean, this is a scene fresh out of one of your stories. Now, I don't know if you've actually put this in a story, but the absolute kind of chef's kiss to that story is that you're then revealing your penis, but getting embarrassed, pulling it back up, but then
Yeah.
dropping it back. But like, I don't know how long this
Well, you don't
went
know what
on
to
for,
do.
and is your mother? What? How are your mother and sister reacting? Are they watching the penis reveal, the penis
You
hide,
know,
or are they just getting on with Law and Order? Is this an unusual occurrence, or were you known
it
for
was
flashing
very
people?
unusual. But I mean, I'll be honest with you. I was in a tremendous amount of pain, and I don't think I was like really picking up the reactions of everyone around me. I have told this story at gross out contests, and I have told it, so like it's recorded with me telling it when Max used to do the Ghoulish show at Radio Coffee and Beer. And this is a true story I've told many, many times because it always gets a lot of laughs.
Can I point out for listeners and viewers that this is literally the first 5 minutes that I have ever spoken to Ryan? We have not spoken
We've not.
before. This is what's happening. we ask the questions that this is horror that nobody else asks, and nobody probably ever wanted to be asked. But this is what's
Mm-mm.
going on here. Wow,
I
this
think
is remarkable.
I wanted to start
I,
off with a bang,
yeah. I
with a
think the
B.
biggest takeaway here is that you probably shouldn't watch Law and Order with your family.
I blame Law and Order, honestly.
Yeah, I mean it's because that sounds like crucial to the story. Law and Order, attractive woman. There's no telling what can happen.
It's true. I mean, look, I've watched Law and Order. I've injured my penis. I've been stung by a wasp, but I've never had all three things combined. This is like original storytelling. We've said before, there's no such thing as truly an original idea, but what you can take is three ideas, combine them together, and this is what you've got. Did you
I
have
want
to go
to.
to hospital after, or did the baking soda just sort
No,
you out?
the baking soda pretty much sorted it out. I don't even think it was like sore or tender the next couple days.
Oh, thank goodness. And we know that you have a child, so it didn't permanently
Yeah,
injure the functionality. So that
a
is very
child with
good
no
to
like
hear.
B characteristics. She's got regular human-sized eyes, no wings, no stinger.
All right, and I think this is so apropos to you write dark comedy, and I mean this is a dark comedy story from your real life. Yeah, the thing that I'm grappling with is like I often try and do very smooth segues, but what am I meant to say here? Your penis got stung by a wasp. Did that inform your dark comedy writing later? I,
I
I
mean,
think we
in some ways, yeah, probably. I think it's one of the it was an early formative experience, obviously. And realizing you can take something that was like in the moment absolutely horrible and humiliating and you can turn it into something that you can use as an anecdote to break the ice with people. I don't know if it's the best way to make friends, but it's a story that at bars always gets a lot of laughs. And so you can turn it into something that like it sucked for like 2 hours, absolutely awful. But the amount of times I've told it since then, probably total like 50 hours.
this feels like your equivalent of Chuck Palahniuk's Guts short story. And so, I mean, you've said that you've told it a number of times. Have you actually formalized it into a short story? And if not, is that something you can? I can't believe it's been 8 minutes and I haven't moved on from this. But yeah,
So
is that something?
when I was in grad school, I wrote it as a short story. I switched it to third person, and I made like that was the backstory. The story I just told you is the backstory, and the front story was this guy who was unemployed, and his kids were on the way home, and there was a bee outside, and he was too scared to kill it. And that was the backstory he flashed back to. And people in grad school loved that backstory. I think they liked the overstory, but it never got picked up. I submitted it to literary journals probably for 5 years. It just never got picked up. And but I think it's the overstory was not good. The current day story was just kind of like I was 24 with no kids, imagining what it was like to be 35 and unemployed with two kids. And I don't think I was doing a good enough job with that, which is why I think it never got picked up. But now I think it's good as like a gross out contest story kind of thing. But I don't really want it published because I think it's better in an oral form than a written form.
Yeah, I'm trying not to react to oral form and descend this entire
Oh
conversation.
no. I didn't realize I said that.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from there because there's a nuance that it takes to tell that type of story in front of a crowd that you can't get when it's presented on the word in the written words. You know, it would almost have to be a type of story like that would almost have to be like a short, like, like a comic or something like that.
Yeah.
That's how it would work because you could control the flow of the pages. Whereas if you're telling it in front of a group, you can control the flow of the story by, pausing and waiting for reactions and things like that. So, yeah, I could see how it would be probably kind of tough to write it as a short story.
Yeah.
Well, I'm certainly glad that you opened this episode with this story. And talking about stories, what kind of stories were you reading growing up? When did you get into horror?
I read all kinds of stuff growing up. My parents were very restrictive. They're very Catholic and what we watched. But we were basically given carte blanche to read anything, especially books my dad liked. So, like, I read a couple Goosebumps for sure. But just like I read all kinds of stuff. I was just a really bookish kid. I was reading Jules Verne in like third grade, and I was very what's the word, like praise motivated. So like I would like show adults these big books I was reading, and the more they reacted, the more excited I would get about reading. One of them was, I've heard this is Stephen King's most sexual book since, but it did not seem sexual to me at like 9. But I read Firestarter at like 9. It's my first Stephen King. Because my dad loved Stephen King, so I was allowed to read that for even though we were mostly like restricted with what we could watch. And I went to the barber with the copy of Firestarter, and they were like, "Oh my God, you are 9 years old and you're reading Stephen King." I think that really set my path because I was so excited that like all these adults were freaked out that I was doing this. And I read like a decent amount of Stephen King after that, but I mostly stuck like to the fringes where I'd read like his non-horror stuff until I was like 11 or 12, and I read The Shining, and then it was kind of all bets off. I would just read anything after that, anything he'd written, Edgar Allan Poe, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting how, a lot of parents would kind of censor the movies that we were allowed to watch, but when it came to fiction, you can pick up anything. And often, like, particularly because of the power of the imagination, the books are far more graphic in terms of what you're actually getting.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think there's been a film that makes things as gross as the stuff in my head. I've
Yeah,
yet to see
yeah.
it.
And did you watch many films around that time? You said your parents were restrictive, but just because your parents were restrictive didn't mean that there
Oh
weren't
yeah, yeah.
ways that you
Very
got
good
hold
point.
of it.
I just told this story on Scarred for Life, but I had a friend and we would go down to his basement. His dad had like a bar with a pool table and a TV in the basement. And we were just allowed to kind of hang out down there. We'd flip channels. And we were really into Dune, the David Lynch Dune. Like he was really into it, so I was really into it. And one day we just caught like, have you ever seen Hellraiser 3?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I think there's like one really scary scene in that movie. We flipped to that out of all the scenes. It's the scene where Pinhead makes the speech about how like the suffering of friends is like the razor blade against wire, hearing your friends cry and all that. And it's a great speech. And we watched that at like 5 years old, and then we turned it off, which is the worst thing you can do, is what I've heard. Because when you turn off a horror movie, you don't see the hero win, which is almost how most horror movies end. Well, Hellraiser movies especially, but you don't see the hero win. So you're just like stuck with this horrifying image. And I like regressed as a child. I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself anymore. I was like 5 years old. I was way too young, and that scared the shit out of me. And that got me off horror movies for a long time because I think like at home, we watched the Matthew Broderick Godzilla for my brother's 13th birthday. It was his first PG-13 movie when he was actually 13, and I was like 11, and I was pretty restrictive then. And then I think like some stuff changed, and we were just allowed to watch stuff. But I was always too scared until college. And in college, I was well. So I auditioned for music school playing guitar when I was 17, and I didn't make it. And I was heartbroken. I was shattered. I felt like my life was over. But I decided at that point I wanted to be a writer, and I'd read a lot of Stephen King, so I was like, let's be a horror writer. And at that point, I just started watching shit, even though it scared me. So I'd watch The Thing, Nightmare on Elm Street, but I just kept like going and going, watching as much as I could, just trying to like expose myself as much to the genre as I could, regardless of what it did for my ability to sleep at night.
So you decided at 17 that you wanted to be a horror writer. Had you written any short stories before? Had you kind of dabbled in storytelling?
No, I had so like when I was 13, I started playing guitar, and I was very dedicated to that. So like I wasn't not doing creative stuff, but I was all my creativity was put into music at that point. Which I think translated really well because one of the things my guitar teacher taught me growing up was like, okay, you like Steve Vai, let's say. I want you to listen to this Steve Vai album and tell me like, what is Steve Vai doing that makes him good? And then I want you see you do that on your guitar. It's like I was never as good as Steve Vai. Let's get that out of the way. That guy's fucking incredible. But the process of like looking at a piece of art that's like something you want to make and then thinking about like what makes this good and what can I do to make my art as good as this was like such an important lesson as a writer, especially like a lesson to get at like 15 years old. That was hugely formative for me, and I think a huge advantage in like when I was starting to write because I would really think about like reading Stephen King, Edgar Allan Poe, and what do I learn from this? What do I take away from it beyond like I felt scared?
And if I've done my research correctly, then right now your day job is teaching guitar. So it
Yes.
would seem, yeah, that kind of, even though at the time it was absolutely awful, maybe getting rejected from music school was one of the best things that happened because now, it's not like you went from guitar to writing. You've now got both. This is your life, teaching guitar and writing messed up, funny horror stories.
Yeah, it's a pretty great life, and I would like be very clear because I've heard a lot of writers don't acknowledge like my spouse sponsors me doing all of this. She is a pediatrician, and like that's where our money comes from. So like I don't have pressure on me in that way, which is incredible. But yeah, I think not making it to music school was so important. And I list like when I was teaching college classes, 'cause that's another job I used to have. I'd always tell my students like you all should like go out and fail at stuff that is really important to you because like I think it's a really important thing for a young person to like be 18 and like have this like all your eggs in this basket and then just have that basket get thrown out the fucking window because it shows you like how hard you actually have to work. Because I was practicing 3 hours a day and I thought like you can't do more than 3 hours a day. This is like the top. It wasn't the top though, obviously, where I would have gotten it. And I think it's very useful in that way to show you like how much pressure the world actually needs for you to do the things you want to do and to show you like if you fail it doesn't matter because like you said here I am. I play an open mic probably once a week. I teach guitar lessons. It doesn't matter that a gatekeeper said like you are not good enough to come to this music school. I'm still playing music and no one can take that. I mean, I guess you could physically maim me that I couldn't play music anymore, but beyond that like nothing could really stop me.
And so when you got the rejection, did you step away from music and guitar for a while, or was it that you kept going in spite of it?
No, I stopped. I didn't stop. I kept practicing because at that point it was like, I mean, I have bad anxiety, and like my teacher said, practice every day, and I think I'm probably one of the only music students ever to actually practice every day. As a teacher, I can tell you, it's not many. Um, but yeah, practice was just part of my daily routine. And like for me, it's still very like if I'm upset or if I'm like anxious, like I was anxious about this podcast a little bit, so I was just belting out songs before you guys came on. I had my guitar and I was singing, and like it centers me, it calms me. So it's not something I'd ever fully let go of, but I was doing a lot less of it, and I'd given up for it on it as a career path. I'd given up on it as like something I could do for my future, because at that point in life I thought, and I'm a product of the 90s where everyone was told like you go to college and you get a job and the thing you went to college for, and that's how life works, which is not how life works at all. But that's what I believed. So I thought that was like the end of any chances I'd ever have of being a professional musician, was that two music schools rejected me, which is, when you say it out loud now, it just sounds so silly. But yeah, I really did think it was like the end of that, even though I would say I'll probably never stop playing. I mean, unless I get arthritis or lose a hand or something.
Was there a moment where you realized actually this isn't the end, or was there a moment that brought you back to guitar?
Yeah, so during the pandemic, I was still teaching college classes, and they basically offered me, they were like, you can teach in person and online at the same time. I don't know if y'all have taught, but like teaching online and teaching in person are very different jobs. And you have to do two separate preps, and you have to do two separate student bases, basically. And I said, are you going to pay me twice? You want me to do two jobs? Are you going to pay me two times? And they said, no. And I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to work out then. And I wrote for, I shouldn't say the name of the company because I signed an NDA. I wrote for a really shitty clickbait place for a little bit. I did think I did like a month, 3 months there. We were getting like $5 an article plus pays for views. And I saw what that translated to, like less than $200 or $300 per month, which is not living money. And I was like, okay, what else can I do? One of my friends was like, well, don't you play guitar? Why don't you teach guitar lessons? And that was what really brought me back to it, because I started teaching lessons, but I was kind of bad. So I had to like really practice, get the metronome out, do my scales every day. Once I started doing that, I got good again. And then I started playing out once like things started opening up, because it was just like, you're putting all this work in, you got to do something with it other than just teach. But that's really what brought me back, is I started teaching. And I realized like I owed it to my students to actually get good again, and then to play out, because you can't teach from a point of like, well, I used to do this really well when I was 15. Who wants to learn from that guy? People want to learn from someone who's like out and playing.
Yeah, you don't want to be the kind of Uncle Pauly equivalent of the guitar teacher, which we will get into shortly, that being a reference to your fantastic new book, Say Uncle. But
Thank you.
bef- before we do get to that, I mean, was your first short story published in, was it around 2014? Is that about right?
I think my first horror story was published in 2014. I think I might have had a literary story in like 2013. I don't remember the years. You did the research. You probably know the years better than I do. But yeah, 2013, 2014. Had poems in there too. 2013 would be the first time I got published.
And so from there, at what point did you realize actually this is something you want to do kind of indefinitely, or this is something that you want to do professionally?
Well, so in 2008, when I got rejected from music school, is when I decided that like I was going to be a writer. Well, I was between psychology and creative writing in college. I eventually chose creative writing, and it was like it's a bumpy journey for sure. To 2013 even. It's like I finished college in 2012, and I was one of the better writers in my program. And I thought that would meant that I would just have like a steady career, because I was really fucking stupid at 22. And instead of a really steady career, I was a camp counselor, and then I had a job at a grocery store stocking fruit, which was very rough on my psyche. And then I had like a year of that, and I got into grad school. The first time for grad school, I got rejected across the board when I applied as a college senior. Then the second time, I got a full ride scholarship applying to the same schools, which is very odd. I still don't know how to explain that. But I had like a different life perspective at that point, because I'd been like crushed to work in that job after that. Of course, at the end of grad school, I also ended up working retail. But I understood then, like, Writing was what I was just going to do forever. I think it's like guitar, where even if I didn't publish, I think I would still write. Even if I couldn't get published anywhere, I would just keep chipping away, keep working at it. I think I heard you and Jasper Bark talking on one of your most recent podcasts about how both of you want to like just keep working to get better for the sake of the craft. And you do that no matter what. And that's kind of how I feel about it too, where it's like it's almost as much about the craft as it is about the business side, or maybe more about the craft. I know you have to be like in this day and age, like a writer and a business person separately. But the writer in me will just like always write. I can't help it.
Yeah, if there's any consolation to you, when I was going to college, I had the same trajectory: creative
Yeah.
writing, something in literature, or psychology. I chose psychology, and I work in retail. So
Yeah, it's
yeah, just yeah,
part of life.
it's
And
it was really it was yeah, it's like once real life comes in, it's like whatever you did in college almost doesn't matter. But I use my degree on the page all the time.
yeah,
So that's, and I use it in my retail work too. You have to, there's a psychology to everything, you know. So I mean, I use what I learned, and I also can answer some really cool psychiatric trivia questions. So yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I relate a lot to that kind of journey, having done an English literature and creative writing degree. And God, it was a 3 year program, and it was fantastic for the first 2 years. And then as you're in your third year, you're suddenly realizing, okay, there's an end point. So what are we actually doing next? What's happening? Because there weren't publishers knocking and trying to give me like a massive six-figure deal. And so somehow I just started applying for like various jobs, but because I was only passionate about writing, I guess like when I put out applications to accounting firms, they could see this has not been anything that you've been interested in your life. So I just wound up doing a lot of admin jobs for ages. But yeah, like that kind of generation, we were sold this idea that we could be anything, that we were all going to be rock stars and
Hmm.
astronauts, and it was very exciting. And then the economic recession happened, which I think, doing the math would have happened about the time that you started university. So,
It was yeah,
great start. Yeah, great start for you. And that was pretty
yeah,
much the year that I graduated. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, that rock star and astronaut thing. So that's not going to happen. So just work for a housing association doing some administrative work." And so I did.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Man, that recession, that was a mess.
it was. And I mean, goodness, I I just want to jump in to say, Uncle, I know that then kind of skips a load of steps in terms of your career and the trajectory, but it's such a wonderful book. And
Thank you.
we've got you on here to talk about it primarily, and that tagline, Uncle Buck meets Hellraiser. Did this come before or after the writing? Was it you? Was it Max? Was it someone else? Where did this come from?
So that came after the writing. I would say that Uncle Pauly was partially inspired by being like an evil Uncle Buck, but I don't think I thought of that as like a tagline at the time. So we bounced around. So we had like Hellraiser for sure. We had Something Meets Hellraiser, and we were bouncing around different sitcoms. So for like a minute, it was going to be According to Jim meets Hellraiser. And I'm so glad Max came up with Uncle Buck. And Uncle Buck is like the perfect comp for this story. And I think like as an added bonus, it also really resonates with people more than like I don't think According to Jim meets Uncle Hellraiser would have gotten the same attention the book got.
Well, I mean, to begin with, I'm not entirely sure what According to Jim is, but I absolutely know what Uncle Buck is. So for
Yeah,
people from the UK, it's immediately more recognizable.
yeah. According to Jim, You're Not Missing Out was like a Jim Belushi sitcom. He was John Belushi's brother, and we didn't have because my parents, like I mentioned, they're very restrictive. So one of the ways they restricted our watching stuff was we didn't have cable, but we got According to Jim reruns on like channel 17 at 3:30 in the afternoon every day. So I used to watch it, but it was not great. It would not have been as good a comp as Uncle Bob.
That's back in the days when shows ran about like 9 seasons because the people who created it were just like giving carte blanche to the studio. And
Yep.
then some executive's going to go, I watched some TV the other night, some of our own shows, and this, according to Jim, sucks. So I canceled it. Yeah, we're going to move on from that. Yeah, I know. I got an angry voicemail from Jim Belushi. He's out of a job now, so oh well.
For a minute, I genuinely thought you did get an angry voicemail,
No,
Bob. I thought we were. It's like
no,
we
no. I did? Did I? I don't know.
yeah,
No, no, no. I
to
gotta
get
no.
to get the penis wasp story and the angry Jim Belushi voicemail in one episode. I mean, well,
John was
maybe you'll.
funnier. Sorry, just
Oh, now you're
sorry.
gonna get one.
Mhm.
Now it's coming.
Jim's
But Jim
just
was
alive.
he was great on the new season of Twin Peaks as like
Oh,
the evil casino owner. I liked him. I don't think he's a bad actor. I will not defend him too much,
he's.
but
I just haven't seen the new season of Twin Peaks, so
oh, it's great.
I should watch it.
So, you said that Hellraiser and Uncle Buck came after the writing. So, what was the impetus? What is the origin story of deciding to write Say Uncle?
Okay, this is gonna sound really weird, but I was watching the HBO Chernobyl at my cousin's house, and we were neighbors in Tulsa, and we finished the series, and I was so upset by those scenes in the series specifically where like they were in the tunnels and they had the Geiger counters and they were it was just all the way to 100, and the guys in the lab, the safe guys who were not in danger, were saying like, well, it's only at 100. And I was like, well, we can see the thing only goes to 100. um, and something about that just really upset me, like deeply upset me. And I came home, and it was like a 5 foot walk because he was our neighbor basically. And I just started writing Say Uncle right then. I don't think I knew where it was going. So I don't know how to like describe beyond that, like what were the inspirations. But I started writing Say Uncle there. And another, sorry, let me pause for a second. Look, you were going to say something.
No, I was just trying to work out. Like I'm maybe not missing the. I'm not seeing the connective tissue as to
Yeah,
watching Chernobyl, being deeply upset and writing "Say Uncle." It's like, is there something missing?
it's a weird one. I can fully acknowledge it's a weird connection. I think for me, when I think back to it, it's this like cone of silence that the people who were in Chernobyl were talking about. And the family and Say Uncle, I think you can see a very similar cone of silence where like these things are happening and everyone's saying, well, no, they're not happening. And if they are happening, it's not a big deal. I think for me, that's like the actual thing that I saw in the show that really upset me and like jogged some stuff. So I started writing the book.
Now I see the connective tissue. That's what I was looking for. And did you have a fraught childhood? Did you have a crazy uncle? I mean, we know that
Uh,
this is in 2005 and the protagonist Braden is 15 years old. We know that in 2005 you were 15 years old.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean,
what's
so
going on here?
there's like, I would describe it as like funhouse mirrors. I would not describe, like, my childhood was not what is being portrayed in Say Uncle. There are similarities between the two things, but it's like a funhouse mirror, if anything. Things that are bad are exaggerated, things that are good are toned down, because, like, if Pony Boy has parents, The Outsiders isn't a book anymore. So like any story about a 15-year-old, there needs to be something for the parents to not intervene, which is why most YA has orphans as the protagonists. So it's kind of like that. I would not describe my child as being like that. No, people have read the book and thought that, but it's not. There are similarities, and the people who grew up with me will see them, but the people who didn't, like, it's not an A to A thing.
And what was it like getting back into that kind of 2005 headspace, writing it nearly 2 decades after the fact?
It was fun and a lot. I mean, it was fun and painful in both different ways. Because being 15 is like, you have all of your emotions fun. Because I have a 3-year old, and I'm just like watching her emotions kind of turn on. Like a new emotion turns on every couple months with a kid that age. By the time you're 15, basically everything is on, but you have no control over any of it yet. So you have these like super high highs and these super low lows. So it's like you kind of get a little bit of both when you're writing about that period in your life. And writing about 2005 was interesting because it was such a weird time period in the US, because 9/11 had happened. And that's like a little part in the book, but like in the US in 2005, 9/11 was like the the reason everything was happening. TSA was starting, the new airport security. I remember, like, my mom wouldn't go to there's a little baseball team near us, the Bridgeport Bluefish, Class AA unaffiliated. It's like, for baseball terms, that means they're basically like, they're technically pros, but they probably have day jobs. My mom wouldn't go to those games. She said there could be a terrorist attack at the Bluefish games. Like, that was the level of paranoia we were all kind of like living with at that time. Just no one was going to attack the Class AA unaffiliated Bluefish. Um, it's like thinking back to that, and then like AOL Instant Messenger was so huge for me growing up, and like writing about that was a lot of fun. Yeah, so like it was like a mix of like looking back nostalgically and enjoying it, and then like thinking about the stuff that hurt, thinking about the stuff that was good.
So you
Yeah.
had to go all the way back to 2005. And I was looking at something recently because I was thinking about going back to like 1988. And so I started looking at, like, I went to Wikipedia and just typed in 1988, and it'll list out all kinds of events and everything like that. And then I just happened to be reading something, and it said, hey, if you really want to know what like the music and the fashion and everything was, if you're writing about it, what you want to do is you don't want to look at that year. You want to go 2 to 3 years before that, because it
Oh,
takes a while for things to come around. So if you're trying to set it in 1988, what you really want to do is you want to look at 1986, because you you tend to think of things as like a pinpoint of a year, but you're talking about 1986 was 365 days of events.
yeah.
So when you look at it from that perspective, even though, hey, that came out in 1986, it may have came out December 20th of 1986.
Oh, yeah.
So in other words, like that album that everybody is still listening to, the Motley Crue album or whatever album it is, it's like, well, that didn't come out in 88. No, it came out in 86, but everybody's still listening to it because there wasn't an album out in 88. So all that just like blew my mind. I was like, but it's like, it's so logical. It makes sense. It's like, if you want to look at the clothes, go a couple years before. Hell, go 10 years before for clothes, because people still wear old shit. It's not like
Yeah.
you're going to buy clothes every day. you know, I've got shirts that are 20 years old. Don't wear them,
Yeah.
but I have them. you know,
I
so it's
think
just,
I think I have a shirt from 2005 still. I think I don't wear it anymore, like you said, but like I think I still have a shirt from that.
yeah. But I mean, it's like it's crazy. Whenever you had to do that, was it hard to like remember stuff,
I
or did
have
you have to look stuff up?
I got a pretty good memory. The things I most had to look up was like when did camera phones come out? Because camera phones play a role in the story, and like when did people have modems versus when did people have Optimum, like the fast dial stuff. There's a lot of stuff like that. Because like I remember growing up, but I also don't remember like when did people have smartphones, like that kind of stuff, like exact years things happen. There's some stuff I had to take out because it was like, okay, there's no smartphones yet.
Right. Yeah, and it's crazy, and it basically that kind of stuff shied me away from setting something in '88. And I was like, I'm just not going to do it. It just seemed like it was just too much work. I'll probably do something short within something, maybe a flashback or something like that. But I couldn't set a whole book back then because I'm just too fucking lazy. I don't want to do the research. Uh, the research bogs me down, then I become uninterested because I'll find something and be like, well, now the whole thing don't work. Never mind. So, but yeah, it had a very early 2000s feel to it. I mean,
Thank you.
it's very, I'm saying that genuinely. It really did.
Thank you.
Well, I
One
think.
joke. Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
Oh,
Michael.
well, I think one of the things that really rooted it in the noughties was, you mentioned AOL Instant Messenger and really embracing that and having these statuses starting much of the chapters. So that really gave us a sense as to where we were. And I mean, I wondered what the challenges or advantages of the technology and the lack thereof were for you, and how loyal did you decide to be? Because sometimes we will notice an inconsistency, but we'll think actually, for the sake of the story and using creative license, we're going to kind of go along with it anyway. So, did you have any of those moments?
So I mean, so to answer your question, the biggest challenge was in 2005. Every one of those instant message away messages would have been song lyrics, which are copyrighted, so you can't use them. So that was the hardest part of the away messages. I think I tried to be as loyal as I could to the time period. Um, I'm sure someone somewhere has caught something that I missed. I'm sure they have. I did not intend for it to be there. There's never a point where I decided like, well, no one's going to know the difference. There was never a point where I decided that. There's points, but if anything, it works to your advantage writing a horror story in 2005 because if most people don't have cell phones, because right now my solution to most problems is to call somebody. Um, so you have to get rid of the cell phones in a modern horror story. If you're in 2005 and you're dealing with 15-year-olds, most kids that age didn't have a cell phone at that time.
Yeah, I'm kind of casting my mind back. I was a few years older, so I did have a cell phone, but it was very, very basic.
Yeah, like
It,
could you
you
take
could
photos with it? Was it a camera phone?
the one that I had at the time you couldn't. So like I've as we've been talking been picturing the phones that I had. So in 2005 there wasn't a camera feature to it, but then I got one in 2006 that had a camera. But to call it a camera would be, I mean, it sort of took photos, but if I were to be like, right in the show notes, take a look at this one, it's like, what pixelated N64 version of a photo is this? They
And
were
you,
so grainy, because sometimes then, like, I take them from the phone where it's on a small screen, put it on the computer, and it's like, wow, this is so pixelated.
you said that was what 2006, 2007, something like that.
2006, but in fact,
Uh,
no, I did have one in 2005. I took some photos at the Download Festival. Yeah.
when in 2012, I was selling cars and I was in the internet department. So we had to take pictures of the used cars. And got to work early. It was my turn to get early and take pictures of the used cars to put them on the website later on after lunch. And the camera, no one had charged the camera. So I was using my Samsung Gravity Text to take a picture. And the president of the company was just driving through and he seen me holding my phone and I was doing this and I was taking a picture of a car and I waved at him and I could hear his tires just crunch behind me. And he backed up. He goes, this guy has real country. Hey man, what the hell what is that in your hand? I said, well, that's my phone. He goes, what are you doing? Let's take pictures of the used cars. No, no, no. We need quality pictures. I said, well, they didn't charge the camera last night. I want you to leave early today and go buy a cell phone, but it has a real camera on it so you can use it at your leisure. And I looked at him and I mean, y'all know me. I'm like, pay for it and I'll do it. And he didn't miss a beat. He goes, consider it done. You leave early, go get it. Show me the phone tomorrow and I'll get you covered. I'm like, all right. So I left early and went and got me a Samsung Galaxy S2. That's in 2012. And I think that phone had a 2 megapixel camera on it. So I just got a new phone the other day because I got a lot from my trade-in that has a 200 megapixel camera on it. Yeah, it's like this thing will shoot pictures of the fucking moon. So yeah.
It's wild thinking about like the cameras we used to use and like what's his name? Steven Soderbergh is shooting full films, like professional quality films on his iPhone now.
Oh yeah, 28 years later was shot completely on 15 Pro Maxes.
Yeah.
That's what Danny Boyle used. They did not use any cameras at all. They did. They used 15 Pro Maxes. It's crazy.
Right?
It's absolutely insane. Yeah. But 20 years ago, Bob, with your 2 megapixel camera, you were the talk of the town.
But I mean, it's like, I'm just thinking that like even between 2006 and 2012, that with 6 years, nothing happened because the camera you probably had in 2006 was probably a 2 megapixel camera. It's like what happened to where they go, we need more megapixels in these cameras. What is this all about? Then they're going to have gigapixels or whatever it's called. I don't know. I just sell the shit. I don't know.
Well, from cameras to Uncle Pauly. So this is a larger than life character. He's newly divorced. He's the kind of uncle that you're probably gonna love us first and I think has the cool uncle, but then the more you learn about him, the more you realize he's no good and he's fairly problematic to understate it. And I think this is exactly the journey that the protagonist, Braden, goes on. So let's talk about the kind of conception of Uncle Pauly.
Yeah, so I was a mason's assistant. I helped electricians. I did landscaping. I did a lot of manual labor. And I met a lot of guys who were a lot like Uncle Pauly in that time. And they would always tell you like horrible things about women. And when you were 15, it seemed like, at least when I was 15, I was stupid. It seemed like they were like really cool and they were telling me like real facts. And I was going to an all boys school at the time, so I had nothing really to push back against it. Now that I'm 35, I can see like these guys were all like really sad almost because they really needed 15-year-old boys to completely adulate them during their divorces. And, like this was like the main pleasure of their life was just like saying shitty things about women to teenage boys in a way that made them feel powerful, I guess. So like Uncle Pauly is like an amalgamation of the worst of those guys. But like you said first, he's charming because he needs to be charming. Because if he's right off the bat, if he's a monster and you can tell he's a monster, the story doesn't work because you can't go on Braden's journey. Because Braden's journey, I mean, I don't want to interpret my own book, but I think Braden's journey is about him realizing like all this like misogyny and stuff is kind of horseshit. I hope that's what other people take away from it. But we'll see. We'll see. It's not. I can't interpret it for readers. But yeah, he's like an amalgamation of all of those guys who said all of those horrible things.
Yeah, I mean, this is certainly a biting critique of toxic masculinity. And I think perhaps the point where Braden is starting to questioning things is he's looking to date this girl and he's looking to go about it in, a very kind of noble, reasonable way. And Uncle Paulie is giving him all this questionable advice and like, no, no, you got to ignore her. You've not got to be honest. It's kind of the things that would come out of either the Neil Strauss kind of the game playbook,
Yeah,
or for a more modern interpretation, the kind of stuff that you might see Andrew Tate espouse to his followers. And, Braden, he realizes that even though some of the advice he's given, he does try out and it works, it's wrong. He feels uncomfortable. And so we're kind of seeing this young man deal with that. And, I remember being a 15-year-old and that kind of time. And like, but even in the media, you're kind of like just you should pick up girls, and that is the thing to do, and that is almost equated with success. If you can't pick up a girl, then you're a loser, you're a beta. Although they weren't using beta and alpha male so
not
much at the
quite yet.
time,
Yeah,
but
Mhm.
and then you just look back and you think, well, what the hell was everyone thinking? And it's because it's like it's the dehumanization of women,
hmm
essentially. Women weren't human beings for these men. They were just somebody who you picked up without considering the consequences and the human behind the person.
yeah. I want to go back to your question earlier. If I changed anything, the one thing I did change is you sparked my memory. At the beginning when they walk in the Uncle Polly's apartment, the very first chapter, I did put a date of one of the pickup shows on the TV. Those didn't exist at that time. That was the one place I cheated. You saying that sparked it. Yeah, that was the one place that I cheated, and that needed to be there because, like you said, the book is a lot largely about that. I would say every piece of advice Uncle Paulie gives Braden was advice someone did give me in real life at some point. And I had to like grow up and be like, okay, this is awful. Especially there was a thing where you'd use a girl as a practice girl. Someone suggested me. I never did this because it sounded awful right when they told it to me. But it was like you would practice having sex with her until you got good, and then you would dump her and go after someone you actually wanted. It's just like so tremendously evil that like someone at 15 was telling me to do that.
Yeah,
Wow.
luckily, despite some of my flaws, I had enough empathy to know that having a practice girl was just wrong.
Yeah,
Because you switch places where you don't want to be the practice boy.
exactly. Like it doesn't. It's not even like a huge empathetic leap to like. Would you want someone to just practice sex with you because they think you're unattractive? Like, no, that doesn't sound something I want someone to do to me at all.
Some of that stuff sounds like. Have you ever seen that movie Swingers with John Favreau and Vince Vaughn?
Yeah, I watched that a couple years back.
Yeah, and it's some of that stuff sounds like the stuff that Vince Vaughn would try to pump into John Favreau. Favreau was
Absolutely.
very his character was very empathetic, And it's like, but like the one thing that Vince was like, he goes, no, 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 don't ever, don't call her right after the date, buddy. No, 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 you make the baby, wait on the call, you know. And then of course Favreau calls the girl, but um, he realizes that he shouldn't have, probably because they just didn't hit it off very well. But it's a pretty funny scene. You'd have to watch it. I've got some kind of critter in here, a mosquito. Go away. Um, and I was like, Bob's going crazy. He's swatting at things. But yeah, that when he was, you know, when Uncle Pauly says some of those things to Braden, it's like, dude, you watch Swingers too many times.
But like, have you been on the other end of the kind of like dating advice equation? Because particularly these days, like I work with like quite a lot of younger men that are in their 20s, and sometimes for some reason, don't judge them too harshly, but they'll kind of ask me like, how do you pick up women, or like how do you talk to a woman? It's like, why am I not having success? And then sometimes they'll even try and be like, look at these texts between no, don't show me your private correspondence. And you know what I often say is like, you're thinking of women as some sort of creature or some sort of achievement. It's like, how should you talk to women? The way that you're talking to me right now, like a human being.
Yeah.
Why are you thinking of this as a game? Just you talk to people, and if you get on well, then you see what happens. But you're not only are you overthinking it, but you're. It's almost like if you're trying to write a really commercial book, you're trying to force something that it doesn't want to be. But
Yeah.
it is kind of shocking how many people kind of feel like this now. And then sometimes they'll be like, oh, well, I was reading this thing by Jordan Peterson, and it's like, okay, firstly,
Ugh.
so put that down. Stop
Yeah.
reading that. Like, I like self-improvement in terms of like my health, in terms of fitness, in terms of business, but you can't approach every aspect of your life like that.
No, it's at a certain point, like, you don't want to optimize fun. Like the
Right.
point of fun is to enjoy it. You can't optimize it because the point of the fun is that you're not optimizing. I worked with a guy once who was like reading all of these books on how to like save time, and I was like, but what if you didn't read those books? And he got really mad at me. It was like, you're spending hours a day reading books on how to optimize your time. What if you use that time doing the thing you want to optimize your time so you have time to do? He did not like that. That was not well received.
It's because people like to come up with bullshit excuses and to procrastinate rather than face the thing that they told themselves that they actually wanted to do. And ultimately, it's like, people looking for like, oh, how can I write more? It's like, just write more. Just start
Yeah.
writing right now. Um, to go back to people asking me for advice, though, like I always feel like there's such a weight of responsibility because you kind of want to say what you're doing here is being completely sexist and chauvinistic, and this is like a kind of consequence of toxic masculinity. But you're like,
Yeah.
how do I say this in a way that it's really going to be heard? Because if I just say you're a fucking sexist, fuck off, well, then they're gonna double down. They're gonna start reading things about the Matrix and how you're being lied to, and then my response is going to essentially corroborate that in their own kind of twisted logic. So
Yeah. I mean, if people come to me for advice, which is very rarely, I try to tell them, at least young men come to me for advice. What I try to tell them is like, what would you like the other person on the end the person on the other end to do, and like, can you do that while being yourself? Because I tried to put good dating advice in the book too. It's like Uncle Joel's mom tells Braden at one point, just be yourself on a date. So I think a lot of people like think like you should be very conservative on your dates. Not conservative, but like very. You should hide who you are and like let the freak out slowly. And on some level, I see it, but on the other level, I'm like, don't you want to find someone who like likes the same things as you, and when you're being weird, they're just going to be weird back? Isn't that the goal? So you should just like
Yeah.
do that right off the bat, and don't think of it as like when you get broken up with, like it's this like big loss, but think of it as like this is like that person wasn't for me, and now I have like a better understanding of what I'm looking for in a relationship.
Right. Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. And I mean, I keep making kind of analogies with dating and other kind of aspects like writing or one's career, but I do kind of see the commonalities. And I think with a lot of people who like coming to me and asking for advice, they feel this bizarre urgency that they need to have a girlfriend or they need to have a partner. And I mean, it's like if you're looking for a job or you're looking for a literary agent, you shouldn't get one for the sake of having it. You should get the right one for you. I suppose a literary agent is a better analogy because sometimes we do just need a job to pay
Yeah,
the
yeah,
rent. But the if you're dating someone and you realize, oh, she's not into me, it's like, great. That we want to talk about optimization and efficiency. Great that you've
yeah,
eliminated one possibility. So you know that one didn't work. You're one step, you're one person closer to the right person for you. Um, the times when I've dated and I've been on dating apps before, I'm so unapologetically me and just openly me from the start and kind of making jokes and talking about philosophy and just this is who I am. And actually, I would say that that has been great for my success in terms of dating because the people who are not into that immediately it's like unlink or whatever it is, and
yeah,
that's fine. But then the people who are on that same level, then we have like some really good conversations. And yeah, I just think that really strengthens what you're saying about just be yourself. Because what are you doing if you're looking for someone to date or to be in a long-term relationship? Then you want the person who's ideal for you, who you've got
yeah.
this match, who you're gonna have a connection. You don't want to be stuck in one of those broken relationships where you somehow got together, but you secretly or sometimes not so secretly hate each other.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, in terms of perhaps the inciting incident in Say Uncle and the moment that Braden realizes that there are certainly more levels to Uncle Pauly than he envisaged is when he is looking to get his porno mag, and instead of finding his porno mag, he discovers a book that is bound in human flesh, which is very
Yes.
difficult to wank to, in fact. So, how how did that come about that you decided not only was there going to be an occult book, but it was going to be bound in human flesh?
Well, the decision to have the book bound in human flesh came because there was a when I was living in Boston in like 2014 or 15, an article came out where they had a book that was bound in human flesh in the Harvard Library. And I read about that. I don't think I started Say Uncle for another like 5 or 10 years, but I just put that. I read about it and I was like, that is a detail I have to put into something at some point because that's too good not to. And I was reading more about it recently, and I wish I had read this before. But one of the initiations they do, if you got a job at this library, they would send you to get the book. They'd give you like the call number, like, "Hey, can you go grab this?" And when you got there, they'd be like, "That's human skin," which is super fucked up. And apparently, you could see pores in this book. Like if you look at this book closely, you could see pores. But it's highly unethical because the woman whose skin it was did not consent to be turned into a book. It was her psychiatrist's book, and after she died, he just used her flesh. But I read that, and I was like, "This needs to be in my book."
So this actual book, was it a book on psychiatry, or was the psychiatrist also just a fiction author? It's like, no, it's the Railway Children. It's
Uh,
Enid
oh man,
Blyton's Enchanted Forest.
I reread more about it when I did the Ghoulish episode with Max. So I talk about it a bunch on there. If I'm remembering right, because that was like 2 months ago, it was a book about souls. So it's like a philosophical text by a psychiatrist on the nature of souls and what happens after you die. And he wanted to bind it in human flesh because he thought like the human flesh would be a good, it was a fitting binding for a book about souls.
So there
I,
wasn't any type of occult connotation with that or anything like that. It was just basically someone talking about what happens, I guess, to our souls. And because I think that if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't there been grimoires that have been bound in human flesh?
Yeah,
Am I thinking that, or is that something that people made? I'm pretty sure there's like a couple of grimoires that are out there that supposedly these things have been bound in human flesh.
I think that's because when I was reading about it, they said there's like a number of books have been bound in human flesh. This was just the one that happened to be like in the Harvard Library from like the 1920s to they removed it recently. That's what the more recent articles are about. They took it out and they just made it like a digital only thing for now.
Oh wow, okay, yeah, that's grisly.
and how recently are we talking? Are we literally talking within the last 5 years that they
Yeah.
decided, right, this woman from the 1920s who didn't consent, we've done this against her consent for 100 years, and that's enough? Was that the
Well, I
level of
think
their
it was
morality?
I, I think there was like 80 years where they had a book that they did not realize was bound in human flesh. So it was like 80 years, and they rediscovered it in like 2014 or 2015 when I first heard about it. And I think it was like 2023 they took it out because it got a lot of attention. Because I think they're what was it? They're reevaluating all of their collection items of human remains because they also had a lot of stuff about indigenous Americans, and so they like realized they should give that back to the tribes. And I think someone said like, "What about that book bound in human flesh? You want to think about that too?" Kind of conversation.
Oh my god. I mean, there's a lot of things that I would do to bring more attention to my books and for the marketing efforts, but I do think that bounding the book in human flesh might be a step too far. And if it was, then I would definitely get consent.
Yeah, I mean the consent is very very important. If I'm going to have a book bound in flesh, I want someone to give me. It's not going to be my flesh. I don't have great skin. I'm very pale. I burn very easy. I don't know if that continues if you get turned into a book. Can the book get sunburned? I mean, with my skin tone, probably.
I don't know. I wouldn't even think. As soon as you said that, I was like, and poor Ryan, bless his soul. His final book has been bound in his foreskin, and you can actually see the scar where the bee stung him right here. Just that's where my mind went with this. I'm sorry, but it did, and it's fucking great. You should do that. It should be
This
in
is
your. It should be in your will.
why would they use the
The,
penis flesh?
the either
This
Ryan has a really fucking big foreskin or it's a really small
this
edition
is his book
of
box.
the book.
I just I just don't know, man. It's too much. It's too much.
It's like an inch by an inch book. If it's a foreskin.
Yeah. No. That's just. I was like, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh shit, there we go, off the deep end.
Would you ever consider a special edition of your book bound in human flesh, not bound in that flesh, but
I
any
mean,
human flesh?
if someone were to consent to it, I wouldn't want it to be my flesh. And I don't imagine there's a lot of people who'd be like lining up like, there's an indie horror author who wants your skin for his book. I don't think a lot of people would really be volunteering for that without like, unless I had like a hefty monetary settlement to give them. And I do not have that. And if I did, I would go on vacation.
Thunderstorm Books, if you're listening, you have created some very special limited edition books. Are you prepared to go from hardback to human flesh? If you are, this is the book for you. Say Uncle by Ryan C. Bradley.
It
Let us
is
know, Paul.
it's a special limited edition book, singular.
Oh
That,
my goodness.
unless I don't know, man. It's like how could you like stretch the skin?
I think
Get
there's a
it?
whole process, probably.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just I don't know, that sounds like Ed Gein territory there.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, at the point where he discovers the book, there's this whole kind of game of like chicken and who's bullshitting who, because they kind of the uncle and Braden both know what he's found, but they don't want to admit it. So, how did you kind of tread that dance, and how did you kind of ensure that there was dramatic tension throughout?
I mean, so that's the scene I've been reading during all of my readings. I love that scene. So I think it communicates a lot of what the book has to offer. But I think I was really just channeling Hitchcock as much as I could. I think the first 50 pages or so of the book, it's just as much Hitchcock as I could put into it. But a lot of it's just like neither one wants to admit because neither is sure. They both think, but they don't know for sure. And so they're kind of like, yeah, like you said, it's a cat and mouse game. I don't know if I particularly thought about it while I was straddling it. I kind of just click clacked away and it happened. I'm never great at answering process questions because I just kind of like, I was typing and then the scene came out.
And I mean, what genre would you put this book into? And if you had to kind of say the genre that you write, what would you put that into kind of as a whole? Because I mean, for me, it it is a dark comedy, but there's also, of course, elements of horror. I mean, god damn it, you've got a book that's bound in human flesh. And then probably at about the goodness, I guess 70% mark, then it really jumps into cosmic horror. Like there's almost a genre shift, but it's something that's been foreshadowed. But then I guess for like the first even 30% of the book, I mean, you could just say it is a dark comedy of a dysfunctional family.
Yeah, I don't know how to market my books. I think I was listening to you and Danger Slater talk about this a couple weeks ago. Um, I don't know what genre. Normally, what I'll say is when people ask me what genre, I say I write horror comedy and comedy about horror, and I phrase it that way because I think horror comedy is very approachable. And when I mean, this is a business guy question. When I'm in business brain, I want to sell books to people who don't read horror because I think there's that audience. I want to sell to the horror audience too, but I'm not. When I'm pitching stuff, I'm not targeting that audience. I think that audience is going to find me. I don't need to, but I'm trying to reach out to people who are not part of the audience already, because I think a lot of people who say they don't like horror, I know you guys talked about this recently too. People say they don't like horror, but they do, and I think my books are things that they would love. So I say horror comedy, but I recognize that it's not like a complete genre title, because I think what I'm writing is like when I tried to come up with comps, I had no ideas. Because like Hellraiser versus Uncle Buck, they're technically comps. Neither one of them is anything like the final story you get. Um, so I share you and Danger Slater's struggle where I'm just like, please read my book. I think you will like it. I think it's a good book, or I wouldn't have published it or tried to get it published. But yeah, I really struggle with the genre name.
Yeah, you can't call it like esoteric comedy because that doesn't really do anything. And that's just a fancy word for anything that has to do with the occult.
Yeah.
To a degree, to a degree. Occult comedy is too niche.
Hmm.
So you're only gonna get those. Oh, it's a cult. Oh, wow. And then they were still doing those. Yeah. It's like, but it's, I don't know. I mean, horror comedy, I would go with that.
Yeah.
But for like this particular book, 100% definitely horror comedy.
Yeah. I think like Absurdus or Bizarro would fit probably. But I think when you're talking to people who aren't like steeped in the genre the way we are, those are like Bizarro, like the guy who fights Superman, is like what people are going to say. That's what they're going to think of first, not like a literary genre.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to be kind of lost within the terminology, and so you don't want to bog them down uh, on something, especially something like this that is, it does have a lightheartedness to it to some degree. There's some grisly shit
Yeah.
in here, but it's, yeah. I would still go with horror comedy. I still would. It's to
Yeah.
be. It had a very John dies at the end, Evil Dead, Uncle Buck meets Hellraiser feel to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I kind of want to bring dark comedy more into the parlance for fiction books because I think when you put dark comedy instead of horror comedy, it becomes even more all encompassing. And, I'd certainly think for when Max writes something comedic, then their work would fit into dark comedy.
Yeah.
Max is very interesting because they almost have two modes where they have
Hmm.
really bleak, pitch black horror, and then they have just the absolute laugh out loud humorous side. And then, I'd put Danger Slater's work in dark comedy too. I'd put Say Uncle there. I'd put my latest one, Daddy's Boy, if I could be so bold to put my own
Of
work in
course.
that
Yeah.
category. And I'd even put what Jasper Barker's doing in dark comedy too. But like we said before, dark comedy is probably the best label we're going to get, but it doesn't capture it fully because, you've got absurdism, you've got bizarro, you've got esotericism. Is that how we say esoteric horror?
I don't know how to
Yeah.
say that
You've
word
got the
either.
occult. So,
Yeah.
you might as well just throw it all in to dark comedy. It's like, do you like fucked up things? Yes. Do you like to have a laugh? Yes. Right. Well, fucking read these books then.
Yeah. It's very hard to market. But I think the artist side of me is just like, I'm gonna keep making the shit that makes me excited.
It's all we can do. It's all we can do if we want to be happy, if we want to be doing this for the reason, for the pure joy that we started writing in the first place. And, talking about kind of early inspirations and goals, I know that Ghoulish Books, who were Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing at the time, that your goal was to get a book with them. And here it is. it's happened. So, how did that come about?
Well, Max and I both had stories in the Gothic Blue book. I'm leaning over here because I have it over here. 5, the Cursed Edition. And so I kind of found out by Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing. That was my first published horror story. And I submitted to them, and they took one of my stories. And then I started reading their stuff, and their stuff was incredible, as you know, and as you've mentioned. I was like, this is someone who's writing like, we're not writing exactly the same thing. We're writing in similar modes. And I wanted to work with them. And I started reading Ghoulish. I got another story in Perpetual Motion Machine, or in Dark Moon Digest. And then we were living in Tulsa, and we had to choose between, my in-laws moved to Dallas. I did not want to live in Dallas. So we were choosing between Houston and Austin. At that time, Max and Andrew were running the Ghoulish show in Austin. So it was like, if I go there, I could like perform with those guys. That would be awesome. And so we chose that over Houston. It's also the traffic in Houston is brutal. So it wasn't like the only factor. I don't want to sound like a stalker here. But yeah, I think that's mainly how it came out, because I think I pitched the book to Max. I'd probably had too much to drink after one of the shows, and we were talking, and they weren't open to submissions at the time. And I was telling them how I just gotten a rejection from one publisher. And I shouldn't mention publishers' names. Like, the next publisher I was going to try, and Max said, like, "Why don't you try me with the book next?" And 6 months later, we had a contract signed.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
incredible. I wasn't sure if I would ever, like you set a goal, like publish with Ghoulish, who I think are one of the best publishers. You don't know if you're ever going to get there, though.
No, and I mean, what's great about Ghoulish is they just put the quality of the story absolutely at the front and center in terms of what they will put out. It's just, did we enjoy the story? Is it doing something interesting? And I think their back catalog really shows that.
Oh,
And their
absolutely. I mean,
front catalog and in the center, anywhere in the Ghoulish catalog.
yeah,
It's
yeah. I
good
mean,
books.
and
Yeah,
I
there's
believe
an
you.
aesthetic that
Yeah.
they have, which is like which your book is a perfect example of what they do. This is the book. My book, The Small Hours. I felt that there was no other publisher that would take it on. It probably was, but the best publisher
Hmm.
would have been Ghoulish, and that's who it's going through. And so, if the tone of the book might have been a little bit different, I would have probably scattered it out a little bit more. But it was a total focus there because I felt like the fit was so good, and you probably once you sent it to them, you probably felt the same way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I'm also honored. Like, I don't want to sound like a kiss ass to be publishing with like you guys, because you did the girl in the videos with Ghoulish, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Mojo Rising.
Yes.
It's like I'm honored to be publishing next to you guys. You guys are awesome. And
Well,
Betty Rocksteady, Danger Slater, these writers I love. Jessica Leonard.
yeah.
Yeah.
They
Well,
they have a
I,
roster.
yeah. And Say Uncle is absolutely up there with the best that Ghoulish have put out. I mean,
Oh, thank
God,
you.
it was, just beyond everything else. It was so much fun. I was like
Mhm.
laughing so much and, just really enjoying it. The pace, the dialogue, that perfect balance of kind of the horror and the comedy. So it really worked for me, and I'll definitely be checking out whatever you put out next.
Thank
Mhm.
you. Yeah, the pacing was heavily influenced by Uncanny X-Men, specifically like Chris Claremont's run. I just like loved the way he paced those comics. And I tried to like take the way, because every one of those comics, whenever an arc ends, the very last panel was like, the X-Men don't get to go home. Oh shit, they have a new thing they have to do. And that was exactly how I tried to pace Say Uncle.
Would you be interested in going into comics at some point?
Yeah, I'm working on an eight. page comic with a friend now. We don't have a home for it yet, so I can't say too much about it. But I've been like obsessed with old dentistry lately, and the way like in France in like the time of Louis the Great, they would, if you lost a tooth and you were a noble person, you could buy a tooth from a peasant and they would take it out with a little bit of gum and they'd put it back into your mouth or into the noble person. They'd sew it back in. And if the blood types matched, the tooth would stick. So I have a little comic about that I'm writing and a friend's going to draw. And so hopefully that'll find a home.
That made my whole mouth hurt.
Yeah, the stories are so. I was reading a book about transplants for a book that I wrote that just like it was terrible. It's never going to get published. But they talked about like the history of dentistry, and it's just such fascinating stuff. I was like, I got to put this into something because it's all so gross.
Yeah, that's just the whole idea of. So they take the tooth with part of the gum.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then I kind of see why they want to do that, but at the same time, they could have just took the tooth and just shoved it up in there.
Well, I think the gum is essential for like the tooth to have like
Right.
the arteries and the veins connect. Not arteries, but the veins, so the
I could.
blood can get into the tooth.
I don't know. In my mind, it would be like, hey, let's just shove the tooth up in there, but it probably wouldn't take. It probably wouldn't stay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that's probably not a.
Yeah, and just imagine like the economic inequality that someone could just buy your tooth if they lost theirs.
Oh wow! But and you did research for that. I wanted to ask about on you know the new book. Did you have to do a lot of occult research? Did you wing it? What did you what did how deep did you go?
So this is not going to be a popular answer. I went 0% deep. I winged it completely because for me the concern was the occult in the book is a symbol, and everything about it is symbolic for toxic masculinity, like we've been talking about, misogyny.
Right.
And so when I was working with it, I mostly thought about like how do I make the symbol work? How do I make the symbolism work more than like how do I get the occult right? So I'm
Right.
sure there's going to be people who are occult and Wicca specialists who are going to read my book and hate it. And I'm sorry to those people, but I can't write a book for everybody.
No, I mean, and there might be some people who do that, but I mean, it's in the comp Hellraiser. Clive Barker's famously been known to say, "Hey, if it doesn't work, make it up." That's what I did.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't
It's
find any reference of the Order of the Gash anywhere except for in Hellbound Heart. Sorry.
yeah,
And you mentioned before you have a 3-year-old child, you have a 3-year-old daughter. So
yeah.
I'm guessing then, in terms of the timeline, probably she was 1 years old or perhaps a little bit under when you were writing Say Uncle. So I'm wondering how that played into the writing.
I'm a pretty slow writer. So Say Uncle was mostly done by the time she was born. And it took me a while to do the revisions, but I was mostly working on like the AOL Instant Messengers were a very late addition. So that was probably most of what I wrote while she was alive. And I've thought about it since. And the book is not sympathetic toward the parents. And I think if I'd written this book after I'd had a kid myself and seen how fucking hard being a parent is, the book would have been much nicer to the parents of everybody because it's real hard raising a kid.
Oh, yeah. I know firsthand about all of that. And
Yeah.
I mean, so since becoming a parent, has that affected what you're working on now? Do you think, raising a kid, fatherhood, parenthood, do you think that could become a thematic concern for future projects? Is it already?
A great question. I think there's a short story or two in Bad Connections, which is my collection that's out, that have parent themes. written after I had a kid, but it also has some stories that have parent themes in them that were pre-kid. I'm curious if listeners would read it and tell the difference. I don't know. I've not written about having a kid since I wrote one because I'm still mostly as like a stay-at-home dad. And that can get pretty brutal at times. And so like I've written about like some of the pain that comes with that because it's mostly a good experience. I shouldn't complain because like a lot of people would love to have the privilege to be a stay-at-home dad, as difficult as it can be. And the story I wrote about that, I reread it like 3 months later. It was the worst thing I've ever written. Like it's just not good at all. And like you can see that there's a lot of pain in it. It's very raw, and there's no story, and there's no way anyone who's reading it would feel the character's pain. It's just like I was so deep in it when I wrote that I just didn't communicate it well. But there's a huge adjustment when you like go from like having a no kid to having a kid. Your brain has to completely rewire, and that was not an easy process, especially when my partner went back to work and her mom went back to her house. And it was just like me and a kid alone 12 hours a day.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. The first 18 months of my daughter's life, I was essentially the stay-at-home dad, and like a lot of the time, I had her in this kind of wearable, so I'm typing and she's there, and I'm trying to be as productive as ever. Like I am a bit of a workaholic. Some might modify a bit of and be like, no, you are a workaholic, but trying to do that and try to be the best dad possible. I mean, it is kind of an impossibility. You can never be the perfect parent. You just have to do the best that you can
Yeah,
at
you have
that
to.
time. And but the isolation is maybe the worst thing about it. And like you say, it's one of those things that's a little bit difficult to talk about because you understand, it is a privilege to be able to get all that time with,
Yeah.
with your child, but at the same time, some of the like pain and the isolation and the depression or depression adjacent feelings, they are real. So it's navigating the way to talk about it. And something you said which definitely resonated was you wrote the story, but because you were so in the moment, it ended up being terrible, and you weren't kind of articulating it in the way that one would for a publishable story. And I've had that happen before. And when we're writing about either trauma or we're writing about difficulties, I think it can be good to write things when they're fairly fresh. But if you're literally still in it, there's no objectivity. So I don't know. Sometimes you have to write it anyway to get it out. But it's like, right, well, you've written it. Don't send it anywhere yet. Look at it and edit it or repurpose bits of it when you're in a better kind of mind space.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna have to do. I wrote a lot while she was an infant, especially while she was napping. And I don't think any of it's any good. I think it was admirable that I tried. But most of the work I did then was just trash. I think I had this feeling that like if I didn't keep writing, and I think I still to some extent have this feeling where like I think I took off 3 weeks from teaching when she was born. I should have taken off more. I didn't take off about. I think I was writing like the day after she was born. But I mean, that's not that bad because like with a 1 day old infant, she's going to eat and sleep. That's it. I can't contribute to the eating at that point. I can be with my partner, but then she sleeps for the baby sleeps for 4 hours, 3 hours after that. So I was writing then, but I had this idea that like if I didn't keep going, whatever I let go of in that first 6 month period, I would never get back because I've talked to a lot of people who said that like I decided just not to do this for a week and it never came back. and I thought that that would happen to me, which is probably more of an anxiety thing than a real thing.
Yeah, I tend to find that in these moments of, I guess, kind of complete stress or life upheaval, that I'm much better at editing and revisiting and
Yeah.
rewriting than I am creating something fresh. So, you know, I've mentioned on some podcasts before, like, me and my wife are expecting a child in December. So right
Oh,
now I'm kind of chaotically creating like all these
yeah.
first drafts so that it's like, right, I'm not going to be in a good space for actually creating new things, but I am going to have something that I can work on.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think maybe though we've even saying that, you know, oh, I've got these things I can work on does again speak to my issue of working too much. It's like, just fucking enjoy your time with your newborn and your wife, you psycho. Put the pen down.
Okay.
um
A lot of
There's
like,
going to
people.
be a lot of podcasts in November.
I
Recordings.
don't know if you're half joking, but well, you know me. You're probably not joking. Yeah, yeah,
No,
there are.
no, no, no. I because I know as man, it's like when after the baby's born, you have responsibilities and you have duties that you need to fulfill. And so yeah, I would expect that October and November are probably going to be busy. They're busy anyway, but I mean, you know, we, we can probably get a lot done. Get some stuff in the pipeline to where you can actually take a actual break
Yeah, and
and do the right things.
yeah, I don't want to sabotage, you know, this podcast with you, Ryan, by talking about me too much. But this might be the first episode where I've like explicitly mentioned, okay, we're expecting a child, and it is a big moment because I
Yes.
mean, on top of everything else, like people who have followed along, they'll know that, yeah, I had like a massive kind of custody battle and divorce. I didn't see my daughter for a number of years. So
Oof.
to now be in the situation where me and my wife are going to be having our family, and I could, it's remarkable. But this is your fucking interview. This isn't the MDW show.
Well, I mean, please talk about your baby. I'm not trying. Your baby is more important than my book. I'm not what's the word? Of course, your baby is more important.
It might be so. And if I if I said no, your book is more important, and my wife listen, what the fuck?
But I would also
That-
say,
that-
"What the fuck?" I'd be with your wife.
that'd be right. Or there's your second divorce right there. Like one step closer to being Uncle Pauly. uh So, I mean, I want to know, what is your writing routine at the moment? How are you navigating all of this, being a stay at home dad, teaching guitar lessons, and writing fiction?
It's my kid is in daycare from 7 to 12. So 7 to 12, I run and I write, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I'll lift too, like basically work out, write, and that's what I do during that time. Get her from school. On a good day, she'll nap, and I'll read. I guess I'll read a little bit during the mornings too. I'll read and I'll nap too, and then my partner gets home like 5:30. I cook dinner. I'm teaching by 6:30 most nights. The nights I'm not teaching, I'll play an open mic or Michael Lewis Dixon lives nearby, and we'll watch a horror movie on a lot of Tuesdays. So it's pretty busy, but I want to teach. I want to play music. I want to write. And I want to make sure on the nights that I'm not doing those things, I'm spending enough time with my partner so she doesn't feel neglected and maintain our relationship. So it's busy. There's not a lot of downtime, but these are the things I want out of life. So these are the things I'm doing.
And is not the writing, is the running and lifting a set time, or is that kind of determined on how deep you are into a story?
So it depends what I'm training for. It's like right now I'm training for I'll start training for a half marathon the Monday after KillerCon, which is this weekend from when we're recording. I'm not sure when this will be released, so it might be by then. It's like when you're doing like a training plan like that, you start out doing like right now it's 30 minutes on Monday of cross training, 3 miles Tuesday, 4 miles Wednesday, 3 miles Thursday, and I lift after the 3 miles. Then there's more miles on the weekend. But you do all that one week, and the next week it goes up a little bit, and it goes up a little bit, and it goes up a little bit until you run the race. Then after the race, you have this like you take like a week or two off. So basically, the running time is determined by where I am in the training plan, what I'm training for. Uh, but I really enjoy it. I like the challenge of it. It does at some points, like when like you're doing a marathon, there's one Saturday for marathon training where you run 20 miles. I promise you, I did not write after that. I did not do anything. It took like 4 or 5 hours. It was brutal.
And when you're lifting, are you doing lifts that will deliberately support the running, or is it more like these are just the lifts for fun, the lifts that you enjoy, the lifts that make you feel good?
I mean, so one day of lifting is legs, which is like specifically so I don't blow my knees out running. And then I'll work my upper body too because I want to look good. I never look as good as I want to look, but that's mainly because I eat like shit.
Oh, I get the kind of never looking as good as you want to look. That is something that I kind of battle with, and then to add like some complication to it all, then my brother is a professional power lifter and bodybuilder who owns his own gym. So sometimes like I look at my younger brother and I'm like, God damn it, he's like so much more ripped. But then at the same time, it's like, yeah, but he's literally the kind of pro athlete and you're the writer. He might be able to do a better squat, but if you give him a pen, he won't write a funnier sentence. So, swings and
Yeah, yeah.
roundabouts.
My brother
Yeah.
is also a big weightlifter, and I feel exactly what you feel.
Yeah.
We have these guys at work that a couple of guys that do food preps, and one of them is he's diligent and very vigilant in his food preps, like to the point to where it's like, hey, that looks like some stuff that was growing out of my front yard. You're about to eat, and it's like, no, this is called kale. It's really good for you, and I'm like, okay, it just looks like trees,
Don't mock
and
kale, Bob.
but and then so I'll go to lunch, and it's like, but it never fails. Me and this guy would be at lunch at the same time at least one time a week, and he'll have the turkey meat and all that, and I've got like a Whataburger, you know, and it's like, and he's like, you did pretty good you lost a lot of weight, but you still eat the Whataburger, and I'm like, yeah, well, one, I don't have two patties on here; it's only one patty. And two, I don't have mayo anymore. It's all mustard. And three, it doesn't even have cheese on it. I got this because I could pick it up real quick.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to eat all of it. But I'm still living better than you are, Mr. Kale.
I know you were going to add four. I want to enjoy life. I was waiting for that point.
Yeah, because it's like, how can you live? You eat turkey every day. There's other meats.
Yeah, I
There's
mean
other
that's
there's other there's other vegetables other than kale.
Yeah,
You
you got
know,
broccoli and spinach.
yes, yes, those. I hate it when he eats broccoli. It stinks up the whole back room.
oof.
And he used to eat 6 boiled eggs, and he would peel them.
Oh.
Nah, you got
Yeah,
you gotta
that's
you gotta peel
you have
the
to
egg
draw the line
before.
somewhere.
If you
Yeah,
peel the egg before, then it won't stink out the staff room as much.
yeah.
That's the key.
He
And
would
if
peel
you
them eggs.
use frozen broccoli, not fresh, then it won't smell as much. So there's your tips from someone who tries to eat healthily but also wants,
a steak.
the vast majority of his colleagues not to fucking kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Just
yeah,
the
it's
vast
funny though.
majority.
It's just the whole concept of you're vigilant. And here's the thing: he looks good. I mean, because he works out and all that. I don't know. And just he ain't living.
You gotta do what you gotta do. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
Some
quite
people don't
disciplined
like
with the
food.
food that I eat. I vary it up more, with my wife. If I lived alone, then it probably would be chicken and broccoli most days. Like I can eat like that. It's fine. Like it doesn't bother me. As food is fuel. Food is having a purpose. But yeah, as the main cook, if I did that with my wife, it's like, come on. So yeah, I cook a variety of different dishes, and it's a happier relationship for it.
Y'all stay in the regular food groups and see, like my food groups is like pizza's a food group, seafood's a food group, steak's a food group.
Oh my goodness. So, what is it that you're working on fiction wise right now?
I have a Patreon called I call it Drop Dead Fiction. So I'm working on those constantly. Those are like little. I describe them as like if the Twilight Zone was performed by Tim Robinson from I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. It's like that kind of stuff. I do that, and that's like straight horror comedy. Where I think like Say Uncle has all these other elements. That's just horror comedy that I'm doing there. So I'm working on that always. I'm working on another longer work called Call Waiting, and it's about this young woman who she's on the phone with an airline. She's trying to convince them to refund the airline ticket she bought with her mother bought for her to her credit card instead of her mother's. And when they put her on hold, she gets sent into a labyrinth with a minotaur. And she's stuck with all of these other people who are on call waiting. So I have a first draft of that done. And there's a really stupid part of my brain that's like, what if it was an epic poem? So I'm thinking about that. I'm trying to convince myself an epic poem is a really stupid fucking idea. Business Ryan is screaming. He's throwing rocks at Creative Ryan, but Creative Ryan is like, you should just do the first chapter, see if you like it, put it in meter. What if you do iambic pentameter for 40,000 words? And I hate that person, but I also am that person. So I'm thinking about that a lot. I haven't started the second draft yet, but I think that's going to be my next big project. I have another couple big things that I've written. I just don't know if I'm ever going to revise them. I don't know if they're good enough to be worth revising. And I'm always working on shorts. I just love writing short stories. You can't make any money on them, but I keep doing it. There's a writer I really like, Jim Shepard, and he's always writing short stories. When his wife asks him like why, he just says, "Be quiet, or I'll start writing haikus."
Oh my goodness. And I totally relate to, your brain essentially telling you, like, here's an idea that will make your novel, will make your fiction less commercial and harder to sell. But goddamn, you want to do it, don't you? The amount of times I've just added a almost bizarro element to a book that could have had commercial potential. And probably it didn't even need that element for the story to still stand up. But I wanted to do it. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they, I don't know, it reminds me of that bit in, I believe in Mr. Bones with the doctor, and they've got the side hustle selling what is it, like fruit pies, and you don't need it at all. It probably makes it absolutely less commercial, but it's just hugely enjoyable. It's just such a
Mm-hmm.
fun little deviation.
Yeah.
And something reminds me of something Max said recently on social media that about not killing your darlings, letting your darlings live. sometimes you get that weird, crazy concept and it's the thing, you know? And it's like, well, no, I should squash that. No, don't. I wholeheartedly think that you should 100% do an epic poem about call waiting. I really do. And here's why. You have a draft written.
Yeah.
You've got absolutely nothing to lose by trying it.
Yeah.
The only thing that you have to lose is that you never tried.
Yeah. I think I'm at least going to do a chapter in meter and see what it's like. Because I've never written in that form before. And the thing that I really worry about just on a creative level is that you, one, I think like a lot of modern words aren't going to fit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you need the ba rhythm to really fit the meter. And you can't, I mean, I guess toaster oven fits. Shit. I need an example. X-Lax fits. Lactate fits. McDonald's. McDonald's. McDonald's doesn't fit. So if you want like McDonald's reference, you won't be able to say, or maybe you will. You just break the meter. And then
Right.
I think it's harder to hop around points of view, and it's harder whenever you read an epic poem. Like you're never deep in Odysseus's head. You never follow like Odysseus is fighting the Cyclops, but he's also thinking about like some rabbits he had when he was a kid or something.
Right.
You don't
It's
see
all
that.
surface. You fly on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if that will work. But I mean, that's why I have to try it. Because I do think at the end of the day, if I don't try it, I'll be disappointed. And that if I make like, what's the word, like a compromise for business reasons, I'm not guaranteed to make any fucking money off that. In fact, I think like when you talk to artists who are making it, like with Sinners, Ryan Coogler did not make any compromises. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think he made a lot of compromises in his other movies to get to making that. Like great artists don't make these kinds of commercial compromises.
I don't know. It's like the way you got to think of it's like this. Clive Barker didn't know how to make Hellraiser. He had to read books about how to direct movies. James Elroy did not know how to write in staccato. His editor had to show him how to do it, and he rewrote American Tabloid. Actually, the book before that to get it closer to that. While it was in the process of being edited, they sat down together and chopped the book up. And
Wow.
he taught himself how to write that way as he did that. So now that's how he writes. But if you go from Black Dahlia, if you go from that book and then start reading everything after that that Elroy wrote, it's like there's a shift change. He taught himself how to do that. It didn't come naturally. So when you have these instances that you got to have some type of change, you have to look at the success stories of people who attempted the same thing, you know. And so, yeah, definitely try do a first chapter. But I would embrace it. Don't say, well, let's see if it works. Embrace it. Go for it
Yeah.
100% because you have a first draft already.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know what I mean? You can always go back to that draft. But I would go in, hey, I'm 100% going to make this an epic poem and then see what happens.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to try to embody that spirit. I don't know if I will, but I'm going to try to embody it.
I mean, there's no reason apart from time why you couldn't have both. You could have like a double cider. It's like, here's the more standard version, here's the iambic pentameter poetry version. Or, you could release them as two separate books. You could have the poem as the version that's exclusive to your Patreon because that's your more kind of hardcore readers. So there's ways of doing both rather than choosing A or B. You can have A and B.
That's true too. Yeah. I hadn't even thought of that. I could do it both ways.
Yes.
How long is the initial draft?
It's like It's like all my work kind of hovers in this line. Like my first book, say Saint's Blood, was like 38K. Say
Mm.
Uncle is probably like 41, 42. Call Waiting is like 35 to 38. But I do tend to like, I write to a point where I know what the ending is, and I put it down and say the first draft is done without having written the ending, because I know where it's going. And I'm at that point, I get kind of bored because I know where it's going. And then when I revise it, I actually write the ending, and I'll change the beginning to better match where I know the ending's going.
On that basis, does that mean that you don't plan a lot? Are you more a pantser, to use
Yeah, I
the
mean,
modern
I have
terminology?
vague ideas, but I would say like when with say Uncle, when Braden goes into the upstairs room, I didn't know there was going to be a book at that point. Like, I didn't know Uncle Pauly's going to have a book. I didn't know they're going to come back to that room. I kind of just I write and then I go back to what I write and I see what I set up and I try to honor the setups that I put in there, or I'll go back and I'll add a setup for what I want.
So on that basis, then, say Uncle could have been a completely different book if he'd have found something else in the room.
I yeah, I theoretically, I do think there's like this is like super woo woo, but I think like as writers, we're dipping into our subconscious, and our subconscious knows what's happening, even though our conscious mind doesn't. And so, like, I don't think it could have been a different book. I think my subconscious always knew. I just didn't know. My conscious self didn't know. And I think I'm like just like an archaeological dig into what my brain already made while I was sleeping or something. It's not like I'm creating, but like the part of me that's creating isn't the part that's writing. That part's unearthing what happened at some other weird time.
It's an interesting way of looking at it. And I mean, you say that it's woo woo, but I'm relating to this quite a lot, specifically with the current project that I've got. It's a collaborative novel with my friend John Crinan. And quite often we're looking for like a solution to a certain story problem, and then we look deeper and we're like, the solution has already been set up. We set this
Yeah,
up 20,000 words ago, but then maybe it's even more remarkable because this is two people doing it. Like, do we have the same creative subconscious for this one project? But so many times we're not sure what the solution is, and we already had it. We just hadn't dug deep enough yet.
yeah, yeah. Carl Jung said that there was like, and Bob probably knows more than I do because he studied psychology, but he said there was like, and maybe you all already know this, like a giant subconscious that we're all connected to and all feeding into, like archetypal images.
Collective unconscious.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. It's a fascinating concept, and it deals with archetypes and stuff like that. The man, and that makes me want to start reading some Carl Jung again, because that's some interesting stuff. Uh, I got into that kind of deep, but that I mean, and I'm grateful that I did, because it got me into Burroughs and got me into reading Ginsberg and Kerouac and all that. It got me into, because all that, and it got me into the Doors. So, so it's all kind of comes together. I think that if Braden wouldn't have found a book, he would have probably found something else that would have been occult related. I think you were already kind of digging in that area. And so
Yeah,
he could have found a box that had like, fuck, I don't know, a preserved tongue in it or something like that, something just, I mean, it wouldn't have to necessarily be a book. The book in this case is like, it's like a MacGuffin.
yeah,
It's catalyst to get you into the story. And I like that. And most of the time, these things they're totems. They're MacGuffins that they're important. They're crucial to the story, but at the end of the day, they don't really mean anything. What it's the fun you had along the way. Yeah.
We've got a question from Tracy via Patreon. And at this stage, you're a number of books into your creative journey as a writer. And Tracy is wondering how you are going about building your brand and what you might recommend for others looking to do that. And then, kind of related to that, if you're looking to kind of go more in the independent or the traditional direction, and if the paths that you would take would then differ in terms of the brand building.
Um, Good question. I don't think in terms of brand. Um, but I do say, like, because I've mentioned before, like, I think you have to be a creator and you have to be a business person. I think, like, as a business person, yeah, I have a brand, but it's mostly like I don't want my socials, which I hate being on social media. If it was up to me and I didn't need to be on it for marketing, I would be off social media. And of course, I say that, but I'm also hopelessly addicted to social media. So 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other. But like my brand, I guess, would be I post photos of me after races, and I've been learning to smoke meat, and I post photos of that. And I do those two things for fun and I enjoy them. But I post the photo so people don't just think, all this guy does is say, buy my book, which is really all I do. I also set up events a lot. And I set up events, one, because I enjoy doing them, I love performing. But two, I can go on socials and say, come see me in Tulsa reading from Say Uncle, and I'm promoting Say Uncle, but I'm also, it doesn't sound like I'm just saying buy my book for the 100th time. I'm saying come to this event. But as like a creative person, I almost never think about my brand. The things I think about as a creator are how do I not just retread the same story again and again? How do I not? But then I also, I mean, I used to think like that, but I also look at like, I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I know I mentioned Firestarter before, and he's not telling the same story again and again, but he's not changing voices between books. And so I've been trying to change voices between books, and I don't know if I should even be doing that because I mean, a lot of great writers. When you pick up a Stephen King book, you know exactly who's writing it. You could pick up, you go to page 50 of any of his books, and you'd know it was him. Um, yeah, and then the other part of the question was traditional or independent publishing. I think for an epic poem, if it ends up being an epic poem, it'll absolutely have to be either independently an indie or a self-published book. I don't think there's a big five press out there's like this guy's had 3 indie books. Let's give him a contract, a big money contract for an epic poem. Um, but I've never published with a big traditional publishing house. I would like to one day. I don't know if it would be my preferred thing. So I've now self-published and I've published with independent presses and I've or small presses. And I've enjoyed both things. There's strengths and weaknesses to both of them, obviously. So I would like to try traditional publishing just to have like a full scope and then make a decision from there. But I also recognize I'm like, it's almost like saying, I just want to try the NFL just for a couple snaps and see if I like it. It's not really how it works. So they're just like, we want you to try this big traditional publishing. But I mean, I would like to. I would like to put my kid through college with book sales, you know? but such is life. And the other question, part of the question was, would I change my approach depending which one I wanted? No, I wouldn't. And mostly as we were talking about maybe 20 minutes ago, um, even if you change your approach, there's no guarantee they're going to like that. And now you've compromised before they've even asked you to compromise. And I don't think that's a recipe for you to be happy and fulfilled in what you're doing. And I imagine that if you're like Simon Schuster, you're not looking for people who are bending over backwards to please them. You're looking for new original voices. At least that's what I hope what they're looking for.
I hope they're looking for a novel length epic poem. I hope that you do get offered a traditional contract for that.
That would be great. I have no optimism towards that.
Go on,
but it could
Simon and
happen.
Schuster. We dare you. We
Yeah, I
absolutely
dare you,
dare
Simon.
you. Let's let's channel some toxic masculinity
Yeah, let's.
to peer pressure them into publishing an
You
epic
ain't got a
poem.
spine unless you publish this epic poem. You spineless worm.
St. Martin's Press would do it. So yeah, why don't you do it, St. Martin's? Prove that you're harder than Simon and Schuster. Just trying to facilitate some kind of gang wars between the big presses. Del Rey, you want in on the action? You make an offer. There we go. We've laid the gauntlet for the epic poem. Wait for the money to come in.
Yeah. I love the idea that we can just peer pressure these Fortune 500 companies
Yeah.
into epic poetry.
It's like that scene in Goodfellas. And then when you get out of your coma, I'm gonna come and bash your fucking skull in again because I'm stupid like that. You gonna publish my book or what?
Well, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
My 18-year-old self. So this is the Ryan who just failed out or just got rejected from every music school.
Yeah.
The thing that I really want him to know is that it doesn't matter what the gatekeepers at music school thought. You can just keep playing guitar. In fact, if you were to go back 18-year-old Ryan and look at your favorite guitarists, most of them didn't go to music school. I mean, that's the advice I'd give myself. If I were to give another 18-year-old, it would be just keep pushing, be persistent, because everything in life comes through persistence, and stuff's not going to go right the first time. You got to do it again and again until you get it. I mean, some semblance of right, and some stuff will never work out, and you just got to accept that at a certain point.
All right. Where can our listeners connect with you?
I am at Ryan B4890 on Blue Sky, Instagram. I'm still technically on Twitter, but I don't check it anymore. I don't open it anymore. And you can just friend me on Facebook. I'm Ryan Bradley.
Y4890. Is that your PIN code?
It's not my PIN code. It's my birthday, though. April 8th, 1990.
Okay. That's that mystery solved then.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for spending the vast majority of your evening chatting with us. Thank you also for writing such a fantastic book in Say Uncle. And I hope we can do this again sometime.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for hosting such a great podcast.
Well,
Do
thank
you
you.
have any final thoughts to leave our listeners and viewers with?
Oh, shit, I don't. Read Sick by Michael Lewis Dixon.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you.